gods and bodhisattvas, of initiations and texts the Anis never heard of before. Good karma, a young Ani sighed. We are born Buddhists, but we Sherpas don't even pronounce the Peja as beautiful as they do. These encounters with, in the eyes of the Bikung Anis, more knowledgeable people who have seen the world also take place outside the Bikung Valley, particularly in Kathmandu. Anis tend to travel up and down Bikung and Kathmandu more often as more and more young people from the Bikung Valley move to Kathmandu to find a job, labor migration, usually permanently, in some cases temporarily. But with Lama Tenzing living in Kathmandu, they have another excuse too, to visit him. They dare to seek their teacher now, which they never had done before. Lama Tenzing, however, has little time for them, for his little residence is always overcrowded by Western Buddhists he has met on one of his many travels abroad. Happy to be with their Lama, the Anis serve his guests silently, observing them and the monks, many of whom have a personal sponsor among those Ingis, chatting, discussing, and going on sightseeings from which the nuns themselves are excluded. The nuns know, however, that whenever a large ceremony is organized somewhere in Nepal, Lama Tenzing will send them there. These opportunities give them the feeling of being appreciated as religious specialists all the same, who travel around in support of the Dharma, with the outcome of meeting new people, hearing other Lamas teaching, and earning a little with their participation as well. They still hope, though, that once Lama Tenzing will invite them to join him on his travels far away, as he does with the monks, but it hasn't happened to any Ani yet. They also hope that one day they will meet a Westerner willing to be their personal sponsor, as nearly all the monks living in Kathmandu have. How much these new experiences may excite the Bikung Anis at one point, at another they also are brought back to them as a self-image of uneducated Anis from a rural, backward nunnery far away in the mountains, at the periphery of the world. They know little Peja, which they often do not even understand as well, know few puja, they don't know how to speak English, and are very insecure about their Nepali. They have no money to improve their personal as well as their collective situation. The older nuns feel their time has passed and withdraw at their Gampa and in the Tsamkang. They try to detach from these kind of worldly affairs by concentrating on their future life. The younger generation of Anis, however, try to make their Lamas clear in their own modest way that they feel dissatisfied. But for Dawa Chuden and her peers, their plans, which have to enact improvements, were too long in coming into practice. Let me try to describe the two plans of the two Lamas. The Tulku favors the idea of educating the Anis of Bikung Gompa in both religious and secular matters. In 1993, he distributed a flyer written in English among the Anis, who, by the way, had no idea what it said and what they had to do with it. But supposedly they had to hand it over to foreign visitors. The flyer was in fact a long request to everyone who passed by and who was able to read and write either Tibetan, Nepali, or English, to stay for some longer time and to teach. The Turku teach them Nepali. We did. At this same occasion, he also told us that he would love to send the Anis to school so that they would get their SLC, school leaving certificate. and to have them study both Tibetan medicine and Western medical science. He saw for his Anis a task in store, not only to educate the local people of Bikung in the Dharma, but also to help them with their health problems. The Tulku found alarming. There's a lot of stomach problems, snake bites, lung diseases in this particular valley. However, for these kind of educational purposes, money is needed. A lama or a loben to instruct the nuns, for a teacher residing to teach them English or Nepali, or to send the Anis to a school. And money is exactly what the Tulku doesn't have. He is, in fact, what one would call a local Rinpoche. He was educated in Nepal and Bhutan, but his travels never went beyond the traditional Tibetan Buddhist world. He doesn't speak English, and even his Nepali is rather poor. Although he has the feeling that he can't catch up anymore, he nevertheless acknowledges the fact that the world has grown bigger. This is exactly the reason why he appointed Lama Tenzing as Kempu of Bikung Gompa. As the assistant of the uncle Rinpoche, Lama Tenzing has connections to wealthy Westerners who could finance the development of Bikung Gompa and its community. Lama Tenzing, however, had his own plan. I only have 1 minute, I'm told. Let me see. What Lama Tenzing wants is to turn Bikung Gompa into a retreat center for Western Buddhists. Because he is requested so often a place where they can withdraw, and Bikung Gompa is such a wonderful, peaceful place, he thinks that is the perfect spot. What he wants to do is to build a tsamkang for at least 50 to 100 people, and to build a 4 meters high wall all around the complex to ensure its peace and silence. And to let the Westerners pay, of course, so that the education of the Anis and the buildings can be materialized. But when I asked him who was going to serve these Westerners, he said, the Anis, of course. They will earn their food and stay this way. And then I asked him, but what about their education? Oh, they can come to in the winter to Kathmandu for 2 months, and the rest of the time presumably emptying buckets and cooking meals. At that moment, I heard a cuckoo shouting, and I explained to him what this bird is like, but he didn't catch the idea. From the pitch of my language, it may become clear that I am not very much in favor of Lama Tenzing's plan. That is not because he is not right in presenting Bikung Gompa as a perfect place for retreat, and not that I begrudge Western Dharma practitioners to follow the path of Tantra. It is because Lama Tenzing's plan passes over the younger Anis' want for a part in this modern global process. He is turning them into birds with 1 wing, and you can't fly with that. During the last months of my stay, I also saw that the two generations of nuns, the older ones who were accepting Tantra as the most essential part of their practice, and clashing with the younger generation of Anis who were willing to study, who wanted to expand their knowledge, to go into the world, to gain some respect. And the older generation was of course favoring Lama Tenzing's plan and told the younger generation not to complain too much. The younger generation, of course, were supporting the Tulku's plan. Both have reason. But in order to solve this generational conflict, which not only creates disharmony that does not suit a Sangha, and in order to prevent an exodus of eventually all young nuns, both plans have to be realized. The bird has to get two wings. In my opinion, this can only be done when Western practitioners not only come to gain something at Bikung, namely a step further in their spiritual development, that they shouldn't run away from a place that doesn't turn out the mythical Tibet they thought it would be of use for both the nuns and the Westerners. This kind of participation and exchange would create a better understanding between the different peoples, now inevitably linked up with each other, based on more insights in each other's worlds and wants, more compassion, and as such, more Dharma. Thank you.
Respected Venerable Bhikshu, Bhikshunis, and friends in Dharma, I'm really glad to be here for this, to be able to participate in this historical event. For this, I thank to Sakadita. Today, I would like to speak about challenges in education for Buddhist nuns in the Himalaya region especially. There is currently a lack of qualified nun teacher in the Himalaya region because they didn't get a chance to study, because there is no nunnery where a nun could get a systematic education until very recently. When I became a nun, that's 15 years back, 15 years back, there was running. So there was no nunnery in Bhutan. So I went to India to look for a nunnery where I could study in Tibetan refugee settlement. And there was also no nunnery where they have an education system. And I went to Dharamsala where was only one nunnery, Gandhin Chilin, and they did not have an education system. They had the most traditional system by chanting, and that's the way they earn their living too. So they're very much dependent on chanting for public, for donors, for sponsors, because that was the way they earned their living also. But they did not have a systematic system of monasteries. And also in the society, they are not encouraged, especially like in Bhutan. They don't encourage a nun to go for studies. They think that a nun should stay in a remote area, away from everything, and just live in a cave and recite mantra, whatever you know, so that they think this is the best way for nuns to do. And even at present, even for monks, they feel the same. So in Bhutan, for scholars, they respect more people who have gone into longer time retreat than who have gone for scholarship, for scholars. So they say, we have a old say, a person doesn't matter how much he knows. If he doesn't put this into practice, it's a donkey carrying a load of books. So he doesn't know what he's actually carrying. So that's why even in Bhutan, even now, we have retreat centers where monks go for 3 years retreat, and then 6 years, then 9 years. And if a monk also, when he's invited the people to do puja for them, they look for a person who have gone into 3 years retreat, not for a scholar. So for nuns, they feel that there is no necessary for nuns to study at all. And also in the society, we are very much discouraged to study, because like when I became a nun, we have no nunnery. We didn't even have a nunnery actually, leave alone about having a systematic system of study program. So they think that we are very, and we don't even have the 3 years systematic retreat center for nuns in Bhutan. We have for monks, but not for nuns. So when I wanted to go and study with the monks, they very much discourage us in the society, because we are nuns, supposed to keep away from man, so they don't want us to get mixed with them. So in the society, they don't like it. So even when I came to India, then we did not have the institute like where Venerable Lecture has a study program now. And then where we have in South India, supported by Gabriela and Venerable Champatsodun in South India, and these were not established at all. I don't know if they really had idea of establishing this at that time. It's 15 years ago. So since we are not encouraged in the society, so there is almost no qualified nuns, and then in monks there's a problem. And then even in the monasteries where the monks have study program, we nuns could not just attend a class by staying away also. It was not allowed, so it was really difficult. So being dependent on monks for receiving teachers, this demonstrated that the only solution for the nuns to be encouraged to get qualification so that the nuns can become teachers for nuns. What is needed now is a Buddhist institute where nuns can study systematically. For such institutes, we have already begun, like in Jammenchuling, they have, but still they cannot admit all the nuns who are interested in studies. They also have limited admission. So it still makes it difficult for us, for nuns. And also after the Sakadita, I've been to Sakadita in Sri Lanka. I've been to Sakadita for Ladakh. And in Sri Lanka, when I went there, they did not have a bhikshuni order. They did have some bhikshunis, but then this was a big issue, that having to improve the condition for nuns, to have a program for nuns. So now, after that, Rajini has already established an institute in Sri Lanka for the nuns. So, and also they have sent 10 nuns from Sri Lanka to last December to India to get higher ordination. And now we have, after the Ladakh Sakadita, they also had much effect there, so the nuns were all invited, so they were very much aware that they should get education. So now also Venerable Palmo, Dr. Palmo has formed a association for nuns of Ladakh. So now they are very much aware, and they're planning, and things are really actually moving with the effect of Sakadita. So we're very much thankful to Sakadita for this. And also about higher ordination, it has become a big issue among Tibetan nuns, among Sri Lankan nuns. But then I think in a way, it's not that we nuns have no confidence to take the ordination, but once you take the ordination, you have to be a special person to be able to hold this dignity. But when you don't have these facilities where you can live in a community of a bhikshuni, then it really makes it very difficult and very discouraging. When you go back, you're an ordinary nun as how you went to take your ordination before you went to take your ordination. You come back and you live in the same situation, then public thinks it's just normal, like becoming a nun, then bhikshunis are not respected. So we really don't have confidence to take the ordination at this moment. We cannot encourage our nuns because we don't have this special place where they can be trained, where they can live together and show the people that these are higher ordained nuns. So it really makes it difficult. So I hope in future, with the help of you all, with your moral support, so that we can have something for women to excel higher ordination, where these people can live in the community, to have a systematic education where nuns can have, we have their future nuns teacher, where we can have a systematic retreat center where nuns can guide their nuns and women to go through the same channel as monks. So we need your support. Thank you.
What I have seen on a recent trip this year is the nuns have taken the lead in political demonstrations and of course suffer severe repercussions because of that. But indeed it seems to be part of their practice. And I was wondering if among yourselves you could address that, what that's like and how that impacts on the future of the Dharma for women in the Himalayas.
As you say, the nuns in Tibet have taken a leading role in expressing their aspirations for independence, political independence. The reason is primarily so that they can practice Buddhism. And under the current communist regime, they have a very difficult time in practicing their beliefs, living in community. They're not allowed to keep a picture of the Dalai Lama, who is their spiritual leader. And any mention of independence for Tibet will land them in jail and cause them to be tortured, often with cattle prods. These are nuns who are celibate. There have been rapes in prison, and there have been deaths, arrests of nuns who are 16 years old, held for 3 years without charges, many atrocities. As a result, why the monks and nuns are politically active, one reason is that they don't have families to protect. Of course, their parents may experience some retaliation, but they don't have husbands or children, and so they feel more free to express their aspirations. Secondly, they want to practice Buddhism. That's the main thing. So thousands of them have, nuns and monks, have fled into India and Nepal to get a Buddhist education and to have the freedom to practice. They land in India with nothing. And many of them are also attracted to come to India, especially the nuns, to get an education. The monks immediately are sent to South India or to one of the 300 monasteries for monks that have been reestablished in India and Nepal. For the nuns, there are very few possibilities. Dolma Ling was established near Dharamsala specifically to take care of these nuns who are coming in by the hundreds. And Betsy Napper and Lobsang Dechen, who unfortunately could not be with us today, have taken a leading role in providing facilities and education for these nuns. We also have some of these refugee nuns in our programs. So it's a very tragic and dire situation. There, in certain parts of Tibet, there's more freedom to practice. In the east, apparently, some nunneries are coming up, and they are quietly forming communities and trying to pursue their spiritual practice. Again, educational opportunities are extremely limited, and support from the lay community is far less than for the monks. However, some, especially the meditative, contemplative communities, if they don't mention the word Tibet or Dalai Lama, sometimes they can sort of get by. So this is currently the situation as I understand it. It's okay.
Last year were in Boston for Christmas. So what's going on? Monks are not as active anymore. They're letting nuns do this, and I think that this is the much higher incidence of food production on the part of nuns, which ends in there being, as you described, food in prison and taking everything to the monasteries. And also the education. I saw the education in the monasteries and stuff.
But what I feel is, I mean, anywhere in the world now, women are becoming more aware of everything and they want to take part in everything. So I feel maybe even in Tibet, due to the influence of Western support and everything, women feel it's responsible, even in political action, that it's necessary for them to, for the nuns also to fight for their rights. And I don't see any special, other reason for that. So.
It may be that these young nuns are more willing to make sacrifices. They're willing to sacrifice themselves. And I think a feminist analysis would question if perhaps this has to do, well, let's be fair, with the self-image. What I can do, I can't do great things, but I can sacrifice my life for my country and for the Dharma. I think it figures in.
And this relates to a type of meditation called Gutum-mo. It's spelled GTUM-MO. Why I ask this question is that in the West, Herbert Benson, who is a well-known professor at Harvard, who pioneered the study of meditation under scientific quote-unquote conditions, wrote a fascinating book a few years ago called The Maximum Mind. And he describes this form of meditation where persons in icy cold clothes in 10 minutes dry their clothes. Then he repeats the experiment. Icy cold water, 10 minutes, then steams. And how does this meditation perhaps describe this in Buddhist meditative technical terms, how it is done? Thank you.
If I can answer to you, get to the point. But as far as I know, with the Vipassana and the thing, with the kind of steaming that you heat yourself and get right, these are actually, there's difference. Vipassana is practiced in Theravada, and also we do at the beginning, as a beginner. But when you go advanced, then this is for tantric. That's the difference, that the tantric practitioners practice this of steaming. So usually, if you are not very serious into practice, or if you have not gone to many years of meditation, they would never give you this teaching. This is most secret teaching. So it's impossible for everybody to get, but they give us information. There are this kind of meditation, this kind of meditation. If you go into meditation, there is meditation in tantric that even when you go to sleep, you don't waste your sleeping. They put this into practice. But to receive this practice, you really must go into many years of practice, and you should also experience some practice. Then you go to their teacher, and it differs from individual. So they give these teachings. So actually in Bhutan, in 3 3 years retreat system. In the third year, they receive this teaching. So if you don't go into 3 years retreat, then there is no way we can get this teaching.
And I wanted to direct the question to anyone who felt comfortable answering it. I was in a situation where I felt I was working against the structure of the nunnery that I was teaching at. I had about 5 nuns teaching, and one of those nuns had a particular aptitude for scholarship and for English. But I could not give her the attention and the special encouragement that she would have profited from because of the group situation of the other nuns there. So I found that she didn't develop as she could have. She was slowed down by being in a group situation and not being selected out as someone with more capacity. And I couldn't, the nunnery was very structured, and only like one time a day was there a slot for an English teacher. So I couldn't work with her more hours. It was impossible. And I felt very badly. I even at one point, got the dictionary out and pointed to the word isolated, and she looked at that and she started to, the tears started, because she had such a strong desire to learn.
The difficulty of learning in a group situation for the nuns.
Situation where you have a school with thousands of students. Every classroom has those that are more are faster learners and those that are slower learners. Sure. I can see the problem if there's only 1 hour a day available for studies. And part of the reason here is that the nunneries need to support themselves. And in the best way that they have to support themselves is by doing prayers and pujas, rituals for the lay community. If they do not do these prayers and pujas for the lay community, they do not get support from their local community. It is my experience that the monasteries for monks do get donations, whether or not they do prayers and pujas. By commission, it's on a commission basis. A family comes and said that I would like 100,000 recitations of Tara, and I will donate this amount. So the nuns need to work harder at attracting this kind of support from the lay community. In some cases, the nuns are busy reciting prayers from 4 in the morning until 6 or even 10 at night in order to support their communities. It does not leave much time for studies, even if they have teachers, even if their senior nuns agree to have a study program. There's generational differences here involved as well. Sometimes the older nuns who have not received an education do not understand the value of the younger generation of nuns receiving an education. So that's another limiting factor, why only 1 hour a day would be allotted for studies. While we're on the subject, I could say that there's also a reluctance to send nuns outside the monastery to study. They're afraid of corrupting influences, and they're also afraid that they won't return back to help the monastery. Another factor is that the younger nuns are strong, healthy, and can work hard. The older nuns are slowing down. They've already been working so hard for 20 years. They depend on the younger ones to haul the water and cook the food. So when these go out, it is hard for the whole community to keep going. So they're balancing all these different factors, many things involved. Yes.
Pursue Buddhist studies to study, and I'm sure we have translators who can help. So would you like to say something about the difficulty, how you feel about studying?
ini may kata itu sini may berusaha dia in Sri Lanka, the last 50 years, the Silmatas, the unordained 10 precept nuns, have been struggling to study, and with great difficulty they have raised themselves. And I could introduce her as one of the chief nuns running a monastery for about 20 nuns, and she herself has obtained a master's degree in Buddhism.
මේ රංජනී ශිල්ලා වගේ එනෝනමතුරු නිසා අපේ දායක සභාව නිසා අපිට මේ ඇඳුම් ආහාර පාන ඉගෙනීම කටයුතු කරගෙන යන්න අපිට ලැබිලා තිබෙනවා. අපි පුංචි මෑණිවරු ඉගෙන ගැනීමේ කටයුතු සිදු කරනවා. ත්‍රිපිටකය, සංස්කෘත, පාලි, ඉංග්‍රීසි ආදී මේ විෂයන් කරගෙන යනවා. නමුත් මුදල් දුෂ්කරතාවය නිසා ඉතාමත් අපහසුතාවයෙන් මේ කටයුතු කරගෙන යන්නට සෙල් මාතාවන්ට සිදු වෙලා තිබෙනවා.
We have to depend on donors for our existence and support from people like Ranjani and other educated ladies who have helped us from time to time, but it is with great difficulty that we are pursuing our studies due to financial problems.
අපි ඉදිරියට යන්නේ අපේ මේ දුක නැති කරගන්න බුදු පියාණන් වහන්සේ දේශනා කළ තිබෙන්නේ තමන්ටත් අනුන්ටත් පිහිට වෙන්න කියලා. ඒක නිසා අපි ඉතාමත් ඕනෑකමින් අනුන්ට පිහිට වීම සඳහා අපගේ ජීවිතය අපකප කරලා තිබෙනවා.
We, according to the Buddha's ideology, hope to sacrifice our life towards the community, and in that way we feel that we will be supported.
මම හිතුවේ නැහැ ලෝකේ මේ තරම් ප්‍රමාණයක් ඉතාමත් උනන්දුවෙන් අපේ බුද්ධ ශාසනය ආරක්ෂා කරනවා ඇති කියලා.
I never believed that there is such a vast community as this supporting the Buddha Sasana. So I feel I am not alone in this struggle.
මගේ සතුට ඔබ සැමදෙන ප්‍රසාරණී පිරිනමනවා අපේ ශාසනය ආරක්ෂා කර ගැනීමට වෙහෙස වීම සඳහා මම මේ ශාක්‍ය දීපාව මේ සමිතියට පැමිණීමට අපේ මේ මිසිස් සහ ඔබ මට උදව් කිරීම ගැන මම ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා.
I am personally grateful to you for giving me this opportunity to witness this world gathering, and I thank you all for this opportunity.
අපේ ශාක්‍ය දීපා සංගමේ නිසා ලංකාවේ මෑතක වික්ෂුණී ශාසනය ඇති වුණා. මම හිතනවා ඉදිරියට ඔබ සැම නිසා අපේ ලංකාවේ
and many other organizations, we have initiated the Bhikkhuni order in Sri Lanka, and we expect all of you to give us the advice and support and the necessary expertise to continue in the future.
මම ඊයේ දැනගත්තා අපේ අපේ රටේ මේ ආර්ථික තත්ත්වය අඩු වගේම තවත් රටවල ආර්ථික තත්ත්වය අඩුයි කියලා. ඒ වගේම මම හිතනවා ආර්ථික තත්ත්වයෙන් දියුණු අය මේ සමිතිය ඇති කියලා. ඉතින් අපේ පුංචි මෑණිවරු ඉන්නවා ඒ අයගේ අධ්‍යාපනයේ දියුණුව කරගන්න අපිට ඉතාමත් අපහසුයි. ශාක්‍ය දීතාවේ සිටින මේ ධනවත් මේ පින්නතුන්ගේ මම ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා අපේ පොඩි මෑණිවරුන්ගේ අධ්‍යාපනය දියුණු කරගන්නට මේ උදව්වක් උපකාරයක් කරන්න කියලා.
I realize that it is not only for us that economic difficulties are, but the entire world in many remote areas, in many traditions, these economic difficulties are there. But at the same time, I would appeal to you to help us to bring up this nunnery with having small young nuns now under training.
දැන් මම මට පුළුවන් තරමින් ඔබට අදහස් ප්‍රකාශ කළා. අපේ මම අපේ ආරාමේ අධ්‍යාපන පීඨය කරගෙන යන ආයතනකදී සිල් මාතාවන් 30ක් පමණ සිටිනවා, උපාසිකාවන් සිටිනවා. ඒකමත් අපහසුයෙන් දායකයන්ගේ තියෙන උපකාර නිසා මම ඉදිරියට අරගෙන යනවා. අපේ ආරාමයේ වගේම අපේ රටේ සිල් මාතාවන්ට උදව් කරන්න මම බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම මේ සාකරීතා මේ සමිතියටත් මගේ ඉදිරි අනාගතයේදී උදව් කරන්නට මගේ බලාපොරොත්තුවක් තියෙනවා. අපේ ආරාමේ උපාධි ඩිප්ලෝමා කරපු සිල් මාතාවන් 10 දෙනෙක් පමණක්, උපාධිය කරන සිල් මාතාවන් 5 දෙනෙක් පමණක්, මම සහ තව කෙනෙක් MA කරලා තව ඉදිරියට මේ උසස් අධ්‍යාපන කිරීමට අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
In my Arama, in my monastery, I have 30 now under training, of which nearly 10 have passed their first degree, but there are so many more aspiring to study, even lay people. So I, in the future, hope to sacrifice for them, as well as my fullest support for Sakyadita. And there is yet another who has got the masters. And we are teaching the nuns. Because there is no money available to teach, to pay for outside teachers. We ourselves do the teaching. We want to study English because we feel that is the best way we can communicate with the world. But we don't find enough teachers. We bless you and we bless Sakyadita that it will be even more.
Example of a Dasasil Mata in Sri Lanka to represent all the Dasasil Matas. Only thing is that she's not fluent in English to express herself so much, but her knowledge and her feelings are so much, and she is educating the. As far as I know, around Colombo, she has the highest number of educated nuns under her. They are very nice, about 18 years, 21 years, 23 years, till like her daughters, you know, they all came to see me the day she was leaving, and like children, they say, Madam, when are you taking us next time? I said, you better study. So like that, only I also, as she appealed, a small donation, if any of you wish, could be sent to her or through Sakyadita to teach them English, to find teachers. Nowadays, Sri Lanka also we can't find voluntary teachers because they are also fighting for their food, you know, they have to earn their own living. So unless we pay something, they don't take serious about teaching. So we would like to appeal, if anybody is willing, could help that way. Thank you.
To come to the front and tell us about your situation and how can we help, because you are our host country.
They actually wanted the Thai monk and the nuns to speak first because they were already given the opportunity together, but then it
Oh, right. Okay, so first from Thailand, would you like to come to the front?
Thailand Institute. ความจริงในแม่ชีก็มีสภาพคล้ายๆกับทุกๆประเทศเพราะว่านักบวชสตรีนั้น ยังไม่เป็นที่ยอมรับของประชาชนเท่าที่ควร
In general, I think Thai nuns, the situation of the Thai nun are very similar to nuns in other countries because our society hasn't accepted the role of the nun yet.
ในอดีตนั้นแม่ชียังไม่ค่อยมีได้รับการศึกษา
Especially in the past, we have no education for nuns.
เพราะส่วนมากที่เข้ามาอยู่ต้องช่วยเหลือตัวเองแล้วก็ช่วยทำงานให้กับทางวัดด้วย
When they enter the temple, they're supposed to work for the temple, and then they have to find ways to support their own, mostly from the family.
ต่อมาคณะแม่ชีและพระภิกษุสงฆ์ที่เป็นผู้ใหญ่ท่านได้รวบรวมมีการประชุมแม่ชีขึ้นเมื่อวันที่28 สิงหาคม 2512 28 สิงหา
28 years ago, there's a few nuns and a few monks who also see the problems. They came together and had a meeting 28 years ago, and they established the institute.
ได้จัดตั้งเป็นสถาบันแม่ชีไทยขึ้น
And that's the year they established the institute.
เพื่อมีความประสงค์วัตถุประสงค์ที่จะรวบรวมแม่ชีที่อยู่ทั่วประเทศไทยให้มีการศึกษาพัฒนาในด้านการศึกษาการปฏิบัติธรรม
The aim of the institute is to gather all the nuns around the country and provide them with education.
และช่วยเหลือความประเทศไทยนั้นมีแม่ชีที่อยู่ตามวัดและสำนักต่างๆประมาณ800 กว่าวัดและสำนัก
In Thailand, there are nunneries where the nuns also have their own city, but also most of them live with the temples. Altogether, it's about 800 temples and nunneries where the nuns are located around the country.
ต่อมาแม่ชีได้มีการศึกษาและปฏิบัติดีขึ้นแล้วก็มีโอกาสได้สามารถช่วยเหลือให้การศึกษากับกลุ่มแม่ชีด้วยกันเอง
Once the nun has come to our training, then later on they start going to different areas in Thailand to give training to other nuns.
ทางสถาบันแม่ชีได้ติดต่อเชิญแม่ชีที่อยู่ตามสำนักต่างๆให้ส่งตัวแทนเข้ามาอบรมในความรู้เกี่ยวกับเป็นครูสอนแม่ชีด้วยกันและเป็นครูสอนเด็ก
My role, I work for the institute, is that I will send a letter to the head of the nunnery or the abbot in each temple and ask them to send some nun to come to Bangkok, and we give training. We train them to be trainers so they can train other nuns. But so we also train them how to teach kindergarten, because in Thailand, in rural area, most of the family, especially the poor one, they cannot afford sending the kids to private school. So the temple still remain the place where the monk will provide a space and build up kindergarten. And since in Theravada, the monks are not allowed to touch or having interaction with the young girl, even the girl or woman. So the nuns then have a place. So that's how they play their role in the temple, to teach the preschool or kindergarten school.
เมื่ออบรมเสร็จแล้วก็ให้กลับไปช่วยพัฒนาไปสอนในสำนักของตัวเอง
And once they come to training, they go back and do their work.
นมัสการพระคุณเจ้าทุกรูปและสวัสดีคุณแม่ชีทุกท่านที่มาจากทุกๆประเทศนะคะแล้วก็สวัสดีปากน้ำภาษีเจริญกรุงเทพนะคะซึ่งวัดนี้ก็เป็นวัดที่ใหญ่โตแล้วก็มีชื่อเสียงคิดว่าหลวงพ่อวัดปากน้ำที่เป็นองค์เก่าทุกคนทั่วโลกถ้านับถือพุทธศาสนาทางด้านสมถะวิปัสสนาเนี่ยจะรู้จัก
I come from the temple named Pak Nam, and in that temple there are many nuns living there. They have a separate quarters for the nuns.
เมื่อสมัยที่หลวงพ่อวัดปากน้ำองค์เก่าที่ท่านมีชีวิตอยู่เนี่ยท่านรักและเมตตาแม่ชีมากแล้วก็แม่ชีที่ปฏิบัติวิปัสสนาได้เนี่ยท่านจะไม่ต้องให้ทำอะไรให้เรียนแล้วก็ปฏิบัติวิปัสสนาอย่างเดียว
When the abbot, the famous abbot, was still alive, he's really giving a priority to nuns. He will train them to how to teach meditation, and when they are able to teach, he won't let them do any cooking or cleaning the temple. He wants them to really learn how to practice, and so that they can lead meditation for other women and other nuns.
ในขณะนี้ที่แม่ชีมาที่นี่นะคะก็เป็นตัวแทนของสถาบันแม่ชีไทยแล้วก็ตัวแทนของวัดปากน้ำด้วยตัวแทนคณะแม่ชีทีนี้ในขณะนี้ที่แม่ชีมีหน้าที่อยู่ก็คือเป็นอาจารย์ใหญ่ที่สำนักแม่ชีสาขาสถาบันปากท่อราชบุรี
I myself is a principal of the nun institution. The nun institution have their own school for the nun in Thailand, and she's the principal of that school.
โรงเรียนนี้ก็ตั้งขึ้นด้วยการเห็นชอบจากสถาบันแม่ชีไทยแล้วก็หลวงพ่อที่วัดโสมนัสเนี่ยซึ่งเป็นเมื่อสมัยก่อนท่านเป็นยศพระครูธรรมศาสตร์เดี๋ยวนี้ท่านก็เลื่อนยศไปอีกซึ่งในขณะนั้นแม่ชีไม่ได้อยู่แล้วท่านก็ต้องการที่จะส่งเสริมเด็กผู้หญิงซึ่งไม่ได้บวชเป็นแม่ชีและบวชเป็นแม่ชีด้วยเหมือนกันทั้งสองอย่างนี้ให้ได้รับการศึกษาเท่าเทียมกับเด็กผู้ชายที่มาทั่วประเทศนะคะ
6 years ago, the Nun Institute established a project called the Dhamma Jarini. It's giving the education. They started this project. This kind of education provided only for girls from rural area who are broken home or who are very poor.
ที่มีปัญหาเกี่ยวกับเรื่องแม่ชีทั่วไปในประเทศไทยก็คือว่าแม่ชีบางวัดเนี่ยไม่มีเงินส่วนตัวหรือไม่มีเงินจากครอบครัวส่งเสริมซัพพอร์ตเขาทีนี้การที่จะเป็นอยู่ในขณะที่เป็นแม่ชีเนี่ยถ้าจะให้เราเรียนศึกษาเต็มที่เนี่ยก็คือจะต้องลำบากเพราะว่าต้องทำงานช่วยวัดอย่างน้อยก็ทำครัวทำอะไรเหล่านี้
The general situation of the nuns are similar to other countries that they don't have support from the temple or their family. So most of the nuns, we have about 50,000 nuns in the country, only 30,000 registered. But actually the actual number is more than that. And most of them have only graduated from grade 4, which is very low. Now we're supposed to finish grade 6 or grade 9 as compulsory, but they still have grade 4. So this is one of the major problem the nuns.
ที่โรงเรียนที่แม่ชีสอนอยู่ซึ่งเป็นสาขาสถาบันแม่ชีไทยที่เรียกว่าธรรมจารณีวิทยานี้เราก็เปิดสอนทั้งนักธรรมและก็สายสามัญนักธรรมนี้จะต้องสอบเรียนตั้งแต่นักธรรมชั้นตรีโทเอกแล้วก็เรียนควบคู่กับสายสามัญด้วย
In the project they established 6 years ago, they provide both formal education and also the Dhamma education in 3 different levels.
เด็กเหล่านี้ก็มาจากทั่วประเทศว่าคนที่จะผ่านสายสามัญได้นี่จะต้องผ่านเรียนนักธรรมไปแล้วถึงจะ
The compulsory the rules they have is that the girls has to study both Dhamma and formal education.
ทุกวันนี้มีนักเรียนทั้งหมด80 คนทั้งแม่ชีและก็นักเรียน
This year the school the project the Dhamma Journey project has about 80 young girls who study with them. ไม่ต้องลงรายละเอียดมากก็ได้
ก็คิดว่าการดำเนินการเกี่ยวกับการส่งเสริมเด็กผู้หญิงให้มีการศึกษานี่เป็นสิ่งที่สำคัญซึ่งทุกวันนี้เราก็ได้เปิดโครงการนี้แล้วก็ดำเนินการมาได้ตั้งแต่พ.ศ. 2533นะคะเสร็จแล้วเรื่องที่จะมีปัญหาต่างๆอย่างอื่นก็หมายความว่าแม่ชีโดยส่วนใหญ่นะคะที่จะได้รับการศึกษาตั้งแต่นักธรรมตรีโทเอกจนถึงบาลีประโยค9เนี่ยจะมีน้อยเพราะโอกาสอย่างที่กล่าวแล้วค่ะก็ขอสรุป
This is what the effort that the Thai Nun institution has been trying to do, but still the number of the nun who has a higher education in Dhamma is still very low because they're supposed to go to 9 level, but we have ตอนนี้มีนักธรรม9กี่คนนะ
ประโยค9
มีกี่คน We have only 5 nuns the whole country who attend that 9 level.
ในฝ่ายบาลี
in Bali
แต่ฝ่ายนักธรรมนี่มีทั่วไปมีเยอะ
Don't go yet, please. There's one question for the Thai nuns from Gabrielle, who is our member from Germany. But oh, there you are. Okay, Gabrielle.
You talked about 800 temples where nuns are living. All these temples are monasteries for monks, and only Dasasimatas, Mejis are living there.
Okay.
Or another question, is there any nunnery, only nunnery?
It's either the middle class woman who decided to enter a nunhood and establish her own so she can support, or the nuns who are, after working long time, then they get recognized and get support from the community. There's about 80 to 100. And then another 700 or 600, they live with the monk in the temple, but I mean, and not with the monk, but they have a separate section.
Okay, thank you.
Dear international guests.
ខ្ញុំឈ្មោះដូនជីតំបននៅវត្តសម្បួរមាស
So my name is Don Chi Von and I'm living in the Wat Sampomir near Phnom Penh.
ដូនជីប្រទេសកម្ពុជាមិនសូវមានការចេះដឹងច្រើនដូចជាដូនជីនៅប្រទេសនានាដែលជាបងទេហេតុមិននៅតាមវត្តដូនជីនៅតាមវត្តក្រុងក្តីនៅនានាអំពីក្រុងក្តីក៏ស្នាក់អាស្រ័យទៅដោយព្រះសង្ឃដូច្នេះហើយខ្ញុំបងសិនចា
Let me first say that there are not so many of us as in comparison to Sri Lanka or to Thailand or other Theravada countries, because Cambodia, as you know, is a country who had a whole lot of political trouble and war, so there was not so much time to build and to have the possibilities to come and settle and to think of our own. We had a lot of other problems, survival problems to solve, to care for families or for orphan children. So it is only now, recently, that we had been having the possibility to start up.
ដូនជីនៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជាគឺមានការតស៊ូអត់ធន់ទោះបីជាមានសង្គ្រាមជាញឹកញយយ៉ាងណាក៏ដោយក៏មានការតស៊ូខំរៀនសូត្រផ្នែកព្រះពុទ្ធសាសនាមានទាំងដូនជីក្មេងក៏មានអបាសិកាជាស្ត្រីក៏មានចេះតែខំតស៊ូរៀនហើយមានការឧបត្ថម្ភដោយខ្លួនឯងអត់មានអ្នកណាមកជួយឧបត្ថម្ភទេសូម្បីតាំងពីធ្វើទីសេនាសនៈសម្រាប់ស្នាក់អាស្រ័យនៅក៏ធ្វើដោយខ្លួនឯងដោយសារមានកូនចៅជួយឧបត្ថម្ភហើយមានការតស៊ូគ្រប់ពេលវេលាទោះបីថ្ងៃក្តីយប់ក្តីក៏ខំរៀនសូត្រដើម្បីឲ្យស្គាល់នៅព្រះពុទ្ធដីកាដែលទ្រង់ព្រានបដៅមកហើយឃើញថាមានតែទុក្ខមានតែលំបាកដូច្នេះហើយសូម្បីតែប្រទេសដូនជីនានាក៏មានទុក្ខលំបាកដូចជាប្រទេសកម្ពុជាដែរ
It is a very individual decision for the women to decide to either enter the Donjihood or to live as a Upasika and observe the 5 precepts and to study Dharma. There is not much support given as such, so we have to struggle on our own. We have to find support for a living to be able to study, and we are very much interested in doing so. And we have also seen that more and more younger women are interested in Cambodia to study the Dharma. So this is why we need to build up some basic structure to give opportunities to do so. So far, there is no schooling system or education system for Buddhist women in our country. It is only possible to study the Dharma in different wats where we have either trained donjis or venerable monks who are ready to give this training to people who are interested in being trained in the Dharmic way.
ដោយយល់ឃើញថា
ម្នាក់កើតមកសុទ្ធតែមានទុក្ខគ្រប់គ្នាទោះបីជាអ្នកមានក៏មានទុក្ខអ្នកក្រក៏មានទុក្ខដែរដូច្នេះហើយមិនអាចទ្រាំនៅបានក៏មកធ្វើជាដូនជីដូចសពថ្ងៃនេះដើម្បីនឹងបដិបត្តិធម៌ដើម្បីឲ្យស្រាលនៅទុក្ខទោសនោះ
And the main reason is that we have recognized there are so many dukkha, so many suffering in our life, that we have to find our own strategy, our own way to deal with it. And this is the Buddhist way. And we try to attract also others to come and join us. We are ready to give education to others who are interested, to also help reconcile the many problems which are existing in this society. មានបដិការព្រះជាម្ចាស់ទ្រង់សម្ដែងថាអត្តណោនាថោមានតែខ្លួនទីពឹងខ្លួនទេដូច្នេះហើយគ្មាននរណាអាចជួយយើងបានទើបខំតស៊ូខ្លួនឯងហើយដល់កណាបានចេះដឹងខ្លួនឯងហើយនឹងដឹកនាំដល់កូនចៅខាងក្រោយដល់ញាតិមិត្តនិងដល់មិត្តធម៌ដែលនៅខាងក្រោយឲ្យគេបានចេះដឹងផង So we are now trying to rely on our own as there is no support given as such, but we envision for the next generation that they are given better possibilities to get Dhamma training and also better possibilities for donjis to study, to come up to a higher level, as we have been discussing it also yesterday.
ខ្ញុំមានការស្ដាយណាស់ដែលប្រទេសកម្ពុជានៅជាភាពក្រីក្រមិនទាន់អាចបានបង្កើតនៅសាលាតូចធំណាដើម្បីនឹងជួយអប់រំដល់ដូនជីនិងឧបាសិកា
So I'm very sorry that I just have to say you that there is really no education system for female Buddhists in this country. So we are really starting from zero at this moment, and this makes very much difference to other presentations which we have heard here. ខ្ញុំបានរៀនចេះដឹងខ្លះ